Hey, welcome back to my shop. Today I don't have anything special. I just wanted to show you one or two improvements on my machines that I made in the recent time, a follow-up to the rotary broach videos, and one or two new tools that I wanted to show you. So let's get started.
Okay. Quite a few of you might have seen the video where I built the rotary broach from Hemingway kits, and quite a few of you also suggested that I do a hollow grind on the end of the punches, and yeah, why not? Let's do it, let's try it. Just very simple on the lathe, and I got one of those. This is an El Cheapo special. 60,000 RPM die grinder. It's a piece of junk. It's really a piece of junk. But the problem with air die grinders is you can buy this thing or a $650 BX die grinder. Okay, and I will just freehand this with the air die grinder and a 10mm ball grinding stone, which will wobble like hell. Okay, this seems to work quite well. It's not really a problem to keep the ball shape quite centered, as long as you don't take a super heavy cut. We'll go a little bit further. Okay, let's see if we get a noticeable difference in feed pressure with the 6mm hex that has a hollow grind on the end. Of course you cannot feel the feed pressure over video, but you have to trust me in this case. And just as the people said, it is lower feed pressure. It is like pushing a maybe a 10 to 12 millimeter drill bit into steel without pre-drilling, so it's not too bad. I think you can see the hollow grind here when I hold it at this angle. I didn't go crazy on the depth of the hollow grind, and I just went out until the spherical indentation hit the corners. So that means I slightly cut away the edges. This will result in an error on the profile, but that's very minute. It's you could draw that up in CAD, but I don't think that it's more than a few hundredths of a millimeter that the edges of the profile get what's that, concave. So that's the hollow grind, and that's a 6mm hex in steel. And my Allen key also fits. So I think I will do the hollow grind on all of those punches, except maybe for the small 2mm diameter one. That might be a bit small to do a proper hollow grind. So that was a very good recommendation. Thanks for all that chimed in and dropped a comment on this topic. Okay, while we're over at the lathe, I wanted to talk about the solid tool post. As I mentioned in the last video, I'm very happy how the lathe behaves now with the solid tool post, and I don't miss the compound slide very much. A lot of people asked how I'm turning tapers, and the answer is
A follow-up to the
I do
rotary broach
surprisingly
videos,
little tape
and
returning, and
one
for
or
short
new
tapers I
tools
just
that I want to show
started
you.
to grind form
So
tools.
let's get started.
That works quite well. And for the 3 times during the year that I need the longer travel of the compound slide, I can take those 2 screws on the cover out, remove the top cover that I made, and this will expose the T-slots in my cross slide. Then I can just drop the compound slide on the back of the cross slide and turn the taper from behind with the tool behind the center of rotation, either with the tool upside down or with the spindle of the machine in reverse. Both ways would be possible. So I would not even have to remove the solid tool post. I just mount the compound slide in the back here and still have quite a bit of maneuverability here. So I hope that answered the question what I do about tapers. And as I said, I have the solid tool post on the machine for almost 2 months now, and not a single taper occurred that I had to turn with the compound slide so far. And don't misunderstand me, the solid tool post is definitely not for everybody. Someone who has to do job shop work where he has to fix mangled up threads and he has to pick up an existing thread with a threading tool, yeah, you need the compound slide. But I don't do much work of that kind, so yeah, this this helps me, and it works quite well. Same for the leather cover down here. This is really great. Protects the ways, and even when I use the die grinder, just as I did before, I don't have to take huge precautions against grinding dust anymore. So we're over at the milling machine, and in the past I had the linear scale for the x-axis mounted in front of the table here, and that was because of convenience. There is a dovetail slot in the front, and I had 2 dovetail keys in it, and I just had the glass scale mounted against it. That had 2 drawbacks. First of all, the linear scale was very exposed, and while I had a cover over it, it was always in the danger zone where it was able to be hit if I slid something heavy on top of the table. And second, I could not reach with the spindle over the end of the table like I can now. As you can see, now I can reach about 40 millimeters over the end of the table, so I can clamp something like a plate so it hangs over the end of the table vertically. It's not much I win there, but it's a little bit of more headroom if I have to work on the end of a large plate. So that's the benefit of this. And also I added a leather cover to the y-axis, just like on my lathe. It's just a piece of steel angle, and I super glued the leather to it, and I added 2 copper channel sections or U pieces that crimp around the leather and the angle piece. Everything's super glued, and the angle piece is bolted against the cross slide of the mill. And this protects the ways of the Y direction against abrasive chips or chips in general. But especially when you work with abrasive materials like cast iron or glass fiber reinforced plastics, or especially when you do hard milling. When you machine some hardened materials with end mills, you get very fine super hard chips, and those mess up the ways of a machine tool very fast. And that's why I have the protective cover here now. On the back I have a Bellow. The rear Bellow cover of the Y-Way is stock. This is some heavy plastic reinforced fabric material, and it seems to hold up quite well, but if it degrades enough and breaks down, I will replace it with a leather cover. And you see also that I mounted the linear scale to the back of the table. I will add a sheet metal cover that wraps around it so it's protected against oil and chips. It's not very critical in this position because the lip seal of the linear scale is on the underside, but still I want some more protection there. One last thing I made is this sheet metal cover for the C-axis linear scale. This is 1mm mild steel sheet metal. It's just bent in a C shape. I will show you that in a second. And it wraps around the linear scale and just leaves a tiny slot here for the slider piece that moves the reed head back here. The reed head is on the back side. Okay, up here you can see the shape of the sheet metal cover. I had this bent up for me because I don't have real sheet metal tools. And then I TIG welded on a cover here. And this wraps around the linear scale. And I have just the slot here where the plate which holds the reed head rides through or slots through. Next machine that got additional way covers is the engraving machine. And this is quite simple because only the C-way and the Y-ways were exposed. I took some 2mm neoprene stock. This is the fabric reinforced stuff. And I made some retainers or holders out of 10mm polycarbonate. I added some magnets in here. And this just clips on here and moves with the cross slide, just like this. Up here I have a piece with a very close fitting dovetail that slides over the vertical way of the machine. And back here I have again a piece with magnets that clips against the cross slide. And that protects all the sliding surfaces of the cross slide, especially against the fine metal dust when you engrave. And I totally think it's worth to invest a little bit of time to make your machines last so much longer. I have seen so much worn out hobby machines because people just didn't care. But also industrial machines that were worn down, so it's a bad case for a foundry. But if you take a little bit of precautions, the machines will last long. Even the Chinese machines that are built down to a price with rather cheap materials. And those machines are expensive, especially for a hobbyist that doesn't do this for a living. A milling machine for $2,500. I don't know about you, but for me that's quite a bit money. One machine that will get way covers added to is my shaper. As you can see, the ways for the table cross traverse are exposed, and they have this beautiful scraping pattern on it, and I don't want that to be scratched up by small metal dust, grinding dust, or anything that floats around in the air in the shop. So I will add some way of covering to those too. And I already have leather cover here, but it's just held on with two clipboard magnets. I will make something that looks a bit more professional too for this machine. Until then I have to cover it up always when I don't use it, which is quite annoying. Okay, we are outside in the shed, and we built this shed last year. It's a 3 by 3 meter sheet metal shed, and as you can hear by the sound, it's quite echoey, so sorry for the sound. And what I have in here is a lot of garden tools, car tires, table saw and stuff like that. And also I was able to cram in a small sandblasting cabinet. This is just a cheapy 90 liter volume blast cabinet that I bought off eBay, and I filled it with 150 micron glass beads for glass beading to finish and deburr small parts. And while it is really not made very well, it works. It costs less than $100 plus about $20 for the glass beads, and for that money it really works nice. The lid needs some better seals, and a vacuum cleaner for dust extraction would be nice, but apart from that it works quite well. And the reason why I have it out in the shed is I don't want to have the tiny glass beads and the glass dust in the house or in the shop. That would be a utter mess. And I took my old compressor and put it also outside here into the shed. I have 230 single phase in the shed, so I can run it outside without having to run an extension cord to the house. And also the compressor comes handy to fill car tires and stuff like that. So that's the blasting cabinet. And as you can see, this shed is barely high enough so I can stand up in here. It's a little over 2 meters tall in the center and about 170 over here. But when you work at the glass beading cabinet, you're crunched over it anyway, so that's working out perfectly fine. Okay, we're back in the basement in my shop, and I took out some pieces that I glass beaded for testing, just to show you the difference between raw surface and glass bead. Let's start with this piece of brass. This one is glass bead and this one is raw brass machined surface here. You can see it's a very uniform surface finish, satin-like, and it evens out even the saw marks up here. They are still visible, but the surface texture over the saw marks gets very even, and that makes for a very very uniform, very clean look. Same on the aluminum. This piece is faced on the lathe, so it's not a very good comparison here, but you get the idea. Normally the aluminum is very shiny, and after glass beading it gets the satin finish that looks rather professional. The glass beads don't remove really materials. They just imagine small balls of glass. They hit the surface and even out any small irregularity, but not removing any significant amount of material. If you have very small burrs, you can also remove them with the glass beads, and you can round over and deburr very small parts with glass bead. That works out quite well. And also they work on plastic quite good. On certain plastics you can use glass beads for deburring and also for surface texturing. Also, the glass beading is really not the right media, blasting media for removing paint, rust or dirt. First of all, you can't run glass beads at a high pressure because the small glass beads will break and produce a horrible amount of glass dust, which is not good. And also, when they're still round, they are not very aggressive and not very abrasive, so they do a very bad job at removing paint or rust or dirt. So you would need another media for that, like garnet or aluminum oxide sand or something like that. Just don't use regular quartz sand, because just Google silicosis and you will know why you should not use normal sand, quartz sand or something like that in a blasting cabinet. Okay, one last thing that I wanted to show you is this guy, my new air compressor. I had a 50-liter unit with one cylinder, direct drive and a horrible amount of noise. That's the unit you saw before, sitting under the blast cabinet in the shed outside. There it's working fine because I can use hearing protection when I do sandblasting or glass beading. But down in the shop I want a compressor that doesn't annoy me to hell. So I broke down and bought a 50-liter 2-pump unit with 2 diaphragm pumps. Those run without oil and they are rather quiet. Yeah, let's turn it on. And I think you can still hear me talking over the noise of the machine. It's not super quiet, but it's no match for the 1-cylinder unit with the horrible high frequency, high pitch, high volume noise that it produced. It outputs about 240 liters of air at something like 6 bar. That's quite a lot for my needs. I can even run an air die grinder or a right angle air grinder over a long period of time without problems with this guy. Similar units are sold in the US from California Air, I think, and everybody else will find those guys on eBay if you search for silent compressor or quiet compressor or something like that. That's a clear case of do your own research. And yeah, this machine does not sit in my shop. This is a room next to my shop, a storage room, and I run copper piping through the wall into my shop. And while we're over in the storage room, this is, you have never seen this before. This is where I have my woodworking bandsaw, a small drill press over here, some hand tool. This is the space to do maintenance on garden tools like the chainsaw or the leaf blower. I have all my power tools down here, my track saw, and over here are the remaining power tools. Over there are hand tools, power tools that don't get much use, and consumables like drywall screws, stuff like that. The center table or the shelves in the center of the room are organized like a prep table, so you can take out the box with the tool, set it up on top, take out the tool, set it up, take the accessories you need, go to work, come back and put everything back in its space. So that's rather convenient, having a flat horizontal surface that's not cluttered up with crap. So that's all I have for this episode. April will be definitely not only a slow month for videos, but a very slow month.
I'm attending a scraping class by Richard King in Denmark in mid-April, and that will suck up a lot of time. I will try to do some filming there, but I think I will concentrate on sucking up as much knowledge as I can during that time. So we have a nice holiday house directly at the sea, and it's close to the shop the scraping class is at, and I'm really psyched for this trip. It's I will drive by car. It's 1200 kilometers one direction, or a single trip. So that's quite a distance to drive. I think I will gain quite a bit of knowledge from this course. Richard King is known to be the man to ask for scraping advice. So I try to shoot some videos there, I promise. I shouldn't promise things on the internet. So thank you all for watching, and see you next time, hopefully with some scraping footage.